Two independent research groups have published satellite images showing North Korean technicians working to restore facilities at a long-range rocket launch site. The reconstruction reportedly began shortly before a second summit between US President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The talks in Vietnam last week unexpectedly broke down. The site had been partially dismantled as a goodwill gesture following the first summit between the two leaders in Singapore last year. It had been used for intercontinental ballistic missile technology. South Korea's intelligence agency believes the move could be part of plans by Pyongyang to restart long-range missile tests should talks with the US collapse altogether. The US president says he would be very disappointed with the North Korean leader if rebuilding reports at the rocket launch site turn out to be accurate. Trump and senior US officials had previously pointed to the dismantling of the site as a sign of the US president's successful diplomacy.
Due to the fact that they had begun this peace negotiation process, they had taken the goodwill step of dismantling the nuclear facility and then immediately began rebuilding it, shows that North Korea definitely took one step towards doing that peace. And then immediately the U.S. did not reciprocate by having those sanctions removed. I think this definitely means that the DPRK is running very frustrated with the United States and is having difficulty dealing with them and their unwillingness to make a concession. I think this represents the state of affairs between the two countries. The United States is merely dictating to the DPRK their terms and expecting everything in return, while not expecting to make any kind of concession to the DPRK itself.
The second summit between Trump and Kim ended very suddenly, with the US president walking away from the talks. Both sides blamed each other for the failure of the summit. The first summit was criticized for having produced little in terms of substance. There had been expectations Trump would push for an agreement on denuclearization at the second summit. The US president blamed Pyongyang for the summit's failure. Trump said Kim had asked for all sanctions against North Korea to be lifted in return for shutting down a major nuclear facility. The North Korean foreign minister said Kim was seeking a partial lifting of sanctions. He said the punishing measures are hampering the civilian economy and the livelihood of his people. The account was confirmed by one senior American official. US National Security Advisor John Bolton has threatened to ramp up sanctions on North Korea if its nuclear weapons program is not scrapped. A senior North Korean official has warned that Kim Jong-un may have lost the will to continue discussions on denuclearization with Trump after their talks fell apart. Washington has repeatedly used sanctions and economic warfare on a number of countries to try and bring them to their knees. However, questions have been asked about the success of this policy.
The way the United States prefers to act is completely unilaterally by bullying everyone into their will. This is the way that empires work. This is the way that they have always had it. Now, for the long time, the United States has had zero people to challenge them on the way things are. They were able to just make demands to everyone because there was no recourse. Nobody had any kind of capacity to stand up to them whatsoever once there was the loss of the Soviet Union as a superpower. These sanctions are very easy weapons for the United States to use. They're very cheap to enforce. They don't require any firepower. They don't require any significant amount of manpower to carry out.
On Wednesday, the United Nations said nearly 4 million North Koreans are in urgent need of life-saving humanitarian aid. It has appealed for $120 million to help lessen the crisis. US sanctions are having a direct effect on North Koreans. In a report, the UN said an estimated 11 million people are not getting enough food. The report added that widespread undernutrition threatens an entire generation of children. It added that limited healthcare and a lack of clean water means children are also at risk of dying from curable diseases.